guys, welcome back to the Tech Check for Season 2, Episode 3. Before we begin, here's a word from our sponsor.
Today's sponsor is Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. It has creation tools that allows you to create and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer. Anchor also distributes your podcast for you on multiple platforms such as Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can make money with no minimum listenership, and everything is in one place to create a podcast. Download Anchor on the App Store or Play Store, or you can go to anchor.fm to create your podcast today.
All right, guys, welcome back to season 2, episode 3 of the Tech Check. Today we'll be talking about the latest election results, which is, Biden being elected president and the effect it will have on American technology. So,
Congrats to President Biden, by the way, if he ever comes across this, but just gonna
yeah,
put it out there. Um,
1% chance he comes across this.
all right, so where do you want to start? Because a lot of what President Biden's doing right now what he's planning to do will have a pretty big effect on the economy, on the American technology industry. So where do you guys want to start?
Start off the tax. It's probably the most important.
Yeah, it's pretty high up there.
Yeah, I would say that or probably the pandemic. Maybe that also would probably be like the two biggest things, which I think of. But
yeah, I would. Let's start. Let's start with taxes because it's pretty straightforward in terms of what's going to happen. But how Biden's campaign ran on, raising taxes in order to maintain, in order to get like, cheaper health care, free healthcare, that sort of stuff, and stuff along those lines. So, but at the same time, higher taxes on companies will lead to them having to spend more money on taxes compared to what they're used to during the Trump term, during President Trump's term, and that might result in less revenue coming in, which could affect. It probably wouldn't have a massive effect on the output of you know larger tech companies, but it's still going to be there as a nuisance. So
yeah, I think I don't like. I know one big indicator of how good like a tech company is doing is like the stock market, and this is my prediction, and I have no idea, obviously, what's going to happen in the future. But I don't think the stock market will be impacted too much as some people might think. Like I read an article saying that it's going to completely dip after Biden gets elected because of the taxes. But I don't know. That's just my opinion. I don't really think it'll have that big of an impact.
um, I feel like actually the stock market will have a decent impact with Biden coming in because Biden and President Biden, well, President-elect Biden and President Trump, um, they both have different approaches when it comes to running a country in terms of economy. Why, in my opinion, from what I saw, Trump was pretty economy heavy in how he ran the country, whereas I don't think Biden would be the same way. And as a result, the stock market's definitely not going to be as high as it was when Trump was president. So I feel like that article you read was right. The fact that the stock market might dip. So yeah, again, that will probably have the higher taxes will definitely have an
Yeah,
impact on
yeah.
tech companies. I'm just not sure if it will be as severe as people are making it out to be.
But I don't think Biden could like make any changes, right? Unless if he wins both the House and the Senate. I'm pretty sure that Joe Biden would have to win. The Democrats would both have to win the House and the Senate for that to happen of a possible tax increase.
Honestly, not really. Feel like having increasing taxes is something that could go through the House relatively easily. No matter who's in power in the House, whether it be Republicans or
No,
Democrats.
but like Trump, I think it was 2 years ago. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that's when he passed like this act, and the only reason I think he was able to do it was because he had control of both the Senate and the House. What Pratham, do you know about that?
I don't know about it too much, but I think we're kind of straying off a little topic,
Yeah,
going
that's
too
so
much
bad.
into Politics
Go
and
to the tech.
tax.
Let's go to the tech.
Yeah.
What
Either
do you
way,
think, Paulson?
whether Biden can raise taxes or not is another story. So,
Yeah.
but if he does, I feel like it will have some form of negative effect on tech companies. Um,
Yeah, probably unlike massive tech companies. I don't know about Apple because Apple's been finding a ton of loopholes in taxes and
Yeah.
stuff, but maybe if Biden like does something to crack down on that, which I haven't heard anything like from Biden's campaign regarding about like loopholes from specifically Apple or something. But I guess like if him raising the taxes could have an impact on big tech companies, but I don't think it should have that big of an impact just considering of how popular and like how much demand there is for tech companies.
Yeah, I agree. So I think that's pretty much it for the tax plans. Do you guys want to move on to something else?
yeah, something big that I want to go through is social media, because especially at least through the minuscule amounts of social media that I'm interacting with, namely being Instagram and TikTok, social media has become very polarized in terms of politics. It can get very aggressive within social media platforms between people with contrasting ideas. So I think with companies with social media companies and tech companies starting to flag various social media, well, no, various people and various ideas in social media. There's going to be some sort of conflict in terms of the government versus uh, you know social media regulation.
I mean, I don't know too much about that, like if that's what's going to happen, because social media, especially like if you go on Instagram, they've already been flagging like a ton of posts relating to politics or the coronavirus specifically. Like if there's any post that has any mention about politics, even if it's just like I don't know Trump or Biden's face in it, it'll always have like a little flag at the bottom saying like here like the actual like information about like the current
That's true. Yeah,
campaigns and election results and stuff like that. And if there's any mention about like any virus, like not even specifically the COVID like pandemic, there's like a little flag at the bottom saying like learn more about the COVID-19 pandemic and stuff. And they've also like tried to do that thing where they they like tried to take down posts that seemingly had like false information, or they put like banners on posts that had false information, but
I mean,
then that turned out to be a meme, so then Instagram stopped doing that. But
the
Yeah.
thing is
yeah, I think
with that, in that sense, yeah, it does already happen. But looking more to the politics side of it, there's got to be some wariness over the antitrust laws and Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, where we have companies being well, Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act essentially says that companies can't get lawsuits, or can't yeah companies can't get lawsuits for stuff that they host and stuff that they refuse to host on their websites. So basically, they can't be sued for what they decide to show and what they can't show. So it's not the matter of whether they show something or not. It's rather what they show in comparison to what they don't show, and whether they should be sued for that. And all the antitrust laws that go with that, with preventing monopolies and that sort of stuff.
I mean, yeah, I guess taking that act into consideration, like so far, looking at Instagram's actions over the past like year, they've been pretty like unbiased on like what side they're taking. So I don't think that there should be really any real issue with Instagram.
Yeah,
I don't know too much about like Twitter and like I mean Facebook. Facebook's a different breed. But yeah, I don't think Instagram would, even though it's owned by Facebook, though I don't think it would have too much of an impact by like well, in terms of user base, it's definitely already been impacted heavily by polarization, but Instagram isn't like, supporting one side over the other. They're still remaining unbiased and, they're giving information about like both sides.
Yeah. So in case anybody like any listeners need this to be cleared up, both Democrats and Republicans want to redact Section 230 so that companies can get lawsuits for you know hosting some stuff and not hosting other stuff. Just to make that clear. So whether it in my opinion, it probably is going to end up being redacted. But it's going to essentially make tech companies be responsible for removing hate speech and misinformation on their platforms because it's pressuring them now because they could get lawsuits because they're misrepresenting something. So I feel like that threat of getting sued for having invalid information or having hate speech or that sort of stuff on their platform could
Mhm.
be important to how social media companies move forward with hosting various hosting and not hosting different information on their platforms.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're definitely going to try to redact it, but honestly, I don't think they're going to succeed. Just because there's a greater opposition than support to this redaction, just because, I mean, first of all, you have like a massive giant Facebook, which, they tried to like pin stuff on Facebook and they just like failed earlier. And you've got a ton of like users who, they don't want like their posts to be taken down for hate speech and stuff like that, just because one of the main things on social media is free speech, and people tend to use free speech a lot on social media to like do
Yeah,
small things like
that's
send
true.
tweets to showing their political stance. So there's going to be greater opposition than support for redacting this act, and people are just going to like put petitions up and everything, and as we've seen in 2020, people are going to like really oppose this.
Retaliate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see that. Yeah, because while the responsibility does fall back on companies, that responsibility also does take a toll on users themselves, and yeah, that might have effect on free speech. And free speech is becoming very big in terms of um, importance over the past couple of months. So
There's
yeah,
there's also like a lot of gray area too of like what's I guess misleading and
considered
what's
hate
not.
speech. Yeah,
Yeah, like literally Twitter flags everything. Well, this is uh obviously Twitter kind of flags a ton of stuff Trump posts on Twitter if you guys have noticed. But I mean, like how can you delete a tweet that the president posts, right? Like I feel like there's a lot of gray area there when it comes to like what's right and what's wrong, I guess.
Yeah, I
yeah,
think due to the gray area, they shouldn't redact this because each tech company should have their own mission statement or like their own rules as to what they want to keep on their platform or not. So, on Twitter, if they're taking it on Trump's posts or like tweets and stuff like that, like just because Trump's like or like was the president, he shouldn't like have any special treatment that his tweets shouldn't be
Yeah.
removed because he's just a user like everyone else on Twitter.
yeah.
So I think
Back.
I
Yeah,
think that every tech company should have their own like moral base as to what they wish to keep on their website and what they wish to not keep on the website. Just because it kind of eliminates this gray area when you're trying to generalize this to every social media platform. Because like if you don't like the terms and conditions for one platform, you can just move to a different one. So
All right. Yeah, let's move on to another topic. Which
uh,
one do you guys want to cover?
China is important
Do it.
because I feel like there's gonna be a massive change in the way that people in that the U.S. interacts with China, especially in terms of the president interacting with China. As we're moving from President Trump's to President Biden's campaign, or President Biden's term. So because you know that President Trump has been a bit strict in terms of keeping Chinese products out of America with high
Hmm.
tariffs and Huawei being banned and attempting to ban TikTok until it was bought by American companies and all that sort of stuff. So there's always been a bit of hostility between the two countries in terms of tech, especially with China kind of doing really well in terms of tech manufacturing. But I think President Biden's probably going to take a bit softer of an approach and be more lenient in terms of allowing companies to work with companies in China. Though it's gonna still there's still going to be a bit of conflict with the whole child labor dilemma of with what's happening in China. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you said. I think that Biden's gonna sort of, I mean, from his speech, uh, after he won, he sort of focused a lot on like healing and healing like foreign and current internal relations. So I think that overall the tariff war with China, I don't think it'll be completely gone. I think there'll still be some level of like restrictions, but as far as the tech side, I think that it'll benefit Apple, especially in a lot of big companies, a lot.
how do you
Yeah.
think it will benefit only big companies?
Well, I know like Apple, for example, they have a lot of their supply chain in China, and it's not only just Apple, but a lot of other tech companies. They also have like a lot of manufacturing that happens in China because of the labor. So with the reduction of all these like taxes against like products coming from China, I think that it'll just help out the companies a lot.
I
What
mean,
do you think?
I guess, but as we've seen, like for the past like year, consider like with Apple's innovations and stuff, they're trying to move more towards making their own.
Yeah, like with Apple Silicon and stuff, they're trying
Yeah,
to make their own stuff. So I don't,
I don't. Yeah,
I don't.
I don't think like the tariffs would like they're it's probably affecting Apple now, but like soon it just won't matter if
But they're
they can't get
making,
stuff
aren't
or
they
can get
making the
stuff.
products in China though? Like they
I don't
make
know.
like example like the innovation of the Apple silicon in the U.S., right? But them actually like manufacturing like millions of products, I feel like the supply chain would happen in China instead of the U.S. just because of like how cheap the labor is there than here.
Yeah, true. I mean, then again, there's a lot of Asian countries out there where they can like just move their factories to.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, from the looks of it, a lot of the iPhones are made in China. Along that being said, they're also made in a ton of other places like Thailand, Malaysia, Czech Republic, South Korea, Singapore, Philippines, etc. So it's not like it's just China. So it's yeah. So but with China's massive workforce, China is probably one of the best options for manufacturing.
Yeah,
But that being said, what I don't really agree with is the fact that it's only going to help massive companies like Apple, like the Amazon or Big Five companies, or Big Five tech companies.
yeah,
I feel like it could also help like some smaller companies like OnePlus or other small tech companies who want to get manufacturing in. I honestly think that'll help more for those smaller tech companies only because the tariffs they're going to have the higher tariffs are going to have a larger effect on smaller companies compared to
yeah,
larger companies just due to the amount of funding that they have. So I actually think that smaller companies will have a big benefit from the lowered tariffs and having better relations with China and their workforce.
yeah, yeah. I agree. All right. Let's move on to another topic. Pratham, which one do you want to cover? What do you think? What are you thinking of covering next?
I mean, the only one of the things I was thinking about was how Biden would treat TikTok, but I guess we kind of talked about that already with his relation or like his potential relations with China.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that just I feel that goes into the whole social media idea of what TikTok bans and also the idea of China, their interactions with China. I mean,
Hmm.
now that it's owned by an American company, he'll yeah, I think he'll be fine with it. I
Yeah.
don't really see him being that involved in what TikTok specifically is doing rather than social media as a whole. So,
Okay.
Yeah. All
um,
right.
ooh, one thing we need to talk about though is climate change and Biden's semi Green New Deal sort of thing,
Mhm.
because I'm pretty sure during one of the presidential debates he said he doesn't want to follow the Green New Deal but the Biden plan, and I'm not entirely sure what the specifics of the Biden plan is, but it's definitely going to have an effect on big tech companies because it's going to have to make them change their manufacturing. The fact that it's going to make them try to become more, mainly reduce their carbon footprint by a sizable Margin.
Mm.
It could also, the whole Biden plan, Green New Deal, it might also have an effect on transportation, maybe probably an increase in public transportation and electric vehicles compared to our standard gasoline. So yeah,
Yeah. That's actually pretty important. Because a lot of these like big companies, when they manufacture like iPhones and these goods, the way they manufacture them is not environmentally friendly at all. And like sometimes what some of the nations would do, some foreign nations and the US, I believe recently, like Canada, not recently, but like actually I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago, but Canada and the US, they sort of signed like a pact saying that like if your process of making a product is environmentally harmful to the environment, they would like put a tax on it to like to prevent you from making these products using that method again. So I think that like overall the Green New Deal and the idea of climate change, I don't know if that would really change too much unless if the tax that you put on it is like a lot of money rather than kind of the small money it is right now.
it's also important that Biden's planning to re-enter the Paris Agreement for climate
Yeah,
change,
yeah,
which again is going to be more pressure to lower carbon footprint to decrease, global temperature and that sort of stuff. So that's also another pressure on top of the Biden plan or Green New Deal or whatever is whatever plan's going to come into place.
yeah. I think that'll be pretty interesting just to see like how these tech companies respond to these
Yeah.
policies.
Um, Semi small news: Biden wants to restore net neutrality, which is pretty valuable, good for the tech ecosystem as a whole. So I feel like that's just important to put out there.
Yeah, and I guess the last thing I wanted to talk about, I guess, was would you guys think it's a good idea of having a virtual election? Like I know a lot of people, obviously right now, a lot of people, some people might think the election's rigged, some people doesn't think it's rigged. Do you think tech would be able to solve this issue?
A virtual, uh, I, mm,
Because think about it,
Very
right? Like
risky.
I
Pratham, you
know,
want to talk about this
yeah,
first? Because I'm
yeah,
not
go ahead,
sure
Pratham.
how to form. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty risky just because, when in like during the 2016 election, there was a ton of rumors about like Russia hacking the elections and stuff like that, interfering with them. So I just think having a virtual election is basically an invitation to hack and manipulate our elections, just because it's a lot more exploitable than submitting paper ballots and
yeah,
like mail-in ballots. So, I mean, it definitely is a possibility, but you're gonna have to have really good cybersecurity for that.
yeah.
Which,
You're gonna have to do it on a really good yeah. You need to have top-notch cybersecurity. You need to somehow, and not only that, it she was going to say almost the exact same thing Pratham was going to say with the idea of Russian hackers the last election. I feel like having a virtual election will not only be chaotic, but it has so much potential to go downhill. There's a higher. I feel like there's more. There's a higher chance for there to be fraud when having an online election rather than a paper like ballot election. Um, I mean, I guess one plus side of having a virtual election is that you don't. I guess we're saving
We
paper.
don't have to wait 4 days for someone to count ballots.
Yeah, we
Yes.
don't need to wait
That
four
was
days
so
for Nevada to
annoying.
finish counting. I'm not
Yeah.
even sure if they have
That'll
finished
never
counting
be
yet,
done.
but that's that's besides the point. Nevada's whole situation, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like paper ballots are just better in the fact that it's more traditional. It feels more right, and it's just safer in terms of preventing fraud.
Yeah.
So
I mean, like, if
Yeah.
there ever is the opportunity where we could do, like, realistically have a virtual election where it's,
it
feasible,
it needs to
then
be done perfectly on the
yeah.
first try, or else
It's
it's going to go
actually
horribly wrong.
it's pretty interesting because have you guys heard of the Iowa caucus?
No.
Well, basically, it was like the primaries for Iowa, and
Hmm.
they actually did their election through an app, which you would like download and you would sort of like identify yourself, and you would vote, and that app just completely fell apart.
Okay, yeah. If
It,
we're
it
going to talk
completely
about the
died.
app of Iowa falling apart, I we can't talk about the entirety of the U.S. Not
Yeah,
only is
like
the not only is it the fact that the Iowa caucus failing because it was just an app, and like it was just problems with the app itself. The fact that it's Iowa, no one would actually care to hack into it. If we would apply it to the U.S., where we have a ton more people, so that's gonna that's got to crash something unless you have a ton of servers.
it's like I don't think you
And not only
can
that, but
physically have something like that.
it's the U.S. election. It's so much of a higher chance of getting hacked into and forced fraud compared to an election in Iowa.
Yeah,
So
because you have a lot of like opposing forces in a U.S. election compared to an Iowan election, because you've got like international like stress
Yeah,
because they're like all looking at the U.S. election, because depending on which candidate's elected, it could either help or be a deterrent to a different country. So they could probably try to exploit a virtual election if it's for the United States compared to, like, I don't know, Iowa. I don't think Russia really would care about Iowa.
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
But
um,
I mean, I just think the general idea of I mean, the one positive I guess I could see from it is just the counting. Like, instead of
I
waiting.
don't like a virtual election, even in terms of counting.
Hmm.
Most of the ballots were counted relatively quickly.
Yeah, they did a pretty good job.
So
No, but like a lot of them were projected, right? Like I know, like Pennsylvania, Georgia, Nevada,
I mean, but
Arizona.
those
Like,
projections were accurate because a you have more people than you have less votes to count than the difference between two candidates. So one candidate automatically wins because that's how math works.
hmm
Um, and otherwise, it's just general trends, which I guess are a bit more risky, but they're usually correct and can be changed relatively quickly.
yeah.
Even I feel like mail-in ballots are still better than having a virtual election.
All right, yeah. So I guess we'll leave the audience to put their thoughts in the comments.
I mean,
Um,
should we talk about scientific research because that's going to be big compared to the two with the two different terms.
yeah, sure. We can cover that quickly. I guess my initial
Um,
thoughts are I think it'll just be helpful. I mean, more research, more money put towards research will just, help out technology regardless. Just my thoughts.
yeah, I mean, President Trump has slashed research funds over the entirety of his term. So the fact, and I'm pretty sure Biden with this whole pro science approach, he's probably going to, we're probably going to have a lot more money put into research and technological developments over the next couple of years.
Yeah, that'd
Yep.
be pretty hyped.
Yeah. All right. Does have any last things
Yeah,
you want to talk about?
I got nothing else.
I got
I'm
nothing
good.
too.
All right, well, guess that turns us over to listeners. If you guys have anything that you want to talk to us about, whether it be about the effect of the recent election on technology, or whether it be some other topic altogether, you can talk to us via any of our social media platforms or through the forums that we have on our website. Um, that's it from us. Stay safe, wear a mask, and stay tuned for the next one.